So welcome to this latest edition of our series called Living the Great Commission, Matthew 28, 18 to 20 in real time. I'm Steve Kennedy of Cluj Christian Fellowship, and we are hosting this interview in partnership with Agnus Rádió. Today, I'm delighted to be in conversation with Balázs Csiszér, Executive Director of Blythswood Romania. Balazs, you are very welcome with us today.
Thank you, Steve.
We're looking forward to hearing about the ministry of Blythswood and the important work that you do in this city and in the region. But briefly, before we get to that, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and briefly your personal journey to this particular ministry?
Yes, about myself, what can I say? As you said, I work with Blythswood Romania, and I have been doing this for over 20 years. Prior to that, I was working with another ministry called Bonus Pastor Foundation in similar position. It was about 10-12 years. So I've been in this field of charitable work ministry for most of my life, I would say, since I graduated university. I became a Christian during university years. I grew up in a family that wasn't going to church or wasn't interested in anything else but what was visible, the visible world, and practical things. I started attending a Sunday Bible study group, and I became a Christian during a summer camp, and I was studying. Those years I was studying mechanical engineering, early 90s. I didn't know what I would like to be when I grew up, when I become an adult. So I kept praying to the Lord for about 2 years after my conversion to show me the path and what would be what I should do. And Levente Horvat, who is quite well known in Cluj and in many circles, approached me that he was starting this ministry with alcoholics, Bonus Pastor, and if I would like to join him in the capacity of management or managing things. And I said I agreed to do that for initial 3 months, summer period, because I had nothing to do right after graduation. Then we extended our agreement with another 6 months, and then we've never renewed our agreement. We just worked together for 10 years. So that's briefly my background, yes. And yes, I still don't know what I would like to be when I grow up, when I become an adult, but the Lord was gracious to me, and I witnessed many miracles performed.
I think many of us can sympathize with you in still trying to work out what we're going to be when we grow up.
Yes.
Let's talk a bit about the work of Blythswood itself. And you've told me that it's part of a larger organization, Blythswood Care. Can you give us a little of that context, the broader picture of background and the work of that organization?
Yes, Blythswood Care is a Scottish charity. As a matter of fact, it's registered in Northern Ireland as well.
That's good to hear.
Yes, and they have a good group of people there. It was started as a small Bible tract society back in the 60s, more than 50 years ago, in Glasgow. Young Christian students then felt the calling that they should address the people on the streets, or what do you call homeless people in Glasgow, around Blythswood Square. That was the area where they were working, and that's how they came up with this name Blythswood Care, because that was their main location, and they didn't want to be affiliated with any Christian church, so they decided to set up this interdenominational organization, Blythswood Care, which initially was about Christian literature, and then with the fall of communism and the opening up of Eastern Europe, this slowly shifted towards like an international aid organization, especially in the early 90s. Hundreds of shipments of goods from the UK were sent towards Eastern Europe. And then this also, after the initial enthusiasm, the focus again shifted towards, more deeper needs of society in Eastern European countries, and they were started to focus on projects, social, educational, and of course gospel, all interweave with the spreading of the gospel. And then, that's when I came on board here in Romania, and we are basically working in partnerships with many organizations here in Romania, as well as Serbia, Ukraine, Republic of Moldova. But the focus is not only on Eastern Europe for Blythswood as such, but they are working with partners in Africa, countries like Kenya, Burundi, Zimbabwe. We have projects in India. We have supporting projects in Pakistan, like the Pakistan Sunday School Ministry, and also supporting pastors in Nepal. So that's the international contacts. But also Blythswood is doing projects in the UK. Like one of the things they are doing in the Scottish Highlands is the food bank program, which I think it's quite well known in the UK. And then another big thing we are doing is the Christmas shoebox appeal, both that's all over the UK, mainly in the Scottish Highlands, but also in Northern Ireland and down south in England. About 120,000, 150,000 shoeboxes are raised in the UK and then shifted to mainly Eastern Europe, but also containers of shoeboxes were sent to Pakistan, for instance, in previous years.
Yeah, I've been part of that end of a shoebox appeal, raising shoeboxes in some of the church contexts at home, and it's very exciting to know that we're contributing to something that has a global context, and that must be an exciting organization for you to work in. Looking a little bit more directly at Romania and our context here in this city of Cluj and in the region, what are some of the key initiatives and programs that Blythswood Romania is running here?
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, we were based here in Florești, the bedroom of Cluj, and our main project is called the Daniel Center, which is a home or some sort of an institution for young men, state care leavers. So they grow up in various state institutions, and then at the age of 18, they are to leave state care, and then our home is to help them integrate into society with all aspects that involves. So, and we have a capacity of 9 young men at once at the center. They come for a period of around 2 years, and then they gradually are taking more and more responsibilities over, and then the aim is to have them integrated into society. And the other project, what we are running here in Cluj, is similar to the food bank program, but of course it's somewhat adapted to the local needs. It's called BASIS, which means covering basic need. BASIS, basic need. So we have about 30 families who are assisted with food parcels, basic food items, medicine, and whatever advice is needed in Cluj area. That is the other program we are running. And Christmas shoebox operation is the same thing. We are doing it in Romania as well. We haven't done it last year due to the restrictions, but that's another project what we are doing. And then sustainability is a big thing for Blythswood Romania, so we are doing different kind of commercial operations as well. So all the profits generated are supporting the social projects. And then we have a branch in Banat area next to Timișoara in Jimbolia, and there are a couple of projects there. One is the program called Talita Cum, TK. It's an after-school program, very successful after-school program for disadvantaged marginalized children. And we have about 80 children, grades 1 to 8. It's TK1 is grades 1 or 4, and then 5 to 8 is the other program. It's been very successful, like in that township, or the town of Zimbolia, which I think it's about 30,000 inhabitants, something like that. Early school leaving is virtually non-existent. Like, children are in the program and continuing schooling, and it's been very successful. There we also run a home care service for elderly. Again, that's preventing institutionalization. We have about 30 elderly in the program that are visited regularly with basic medical and whatever, cleaning, shopping, and whatever is needed. It's also a licensed social service. So all these programs I mentioned in Cluj or in Banat area are fully licensed social services. We are like social service providers in these areas. And then we have another program for HIV and AIDS survivors. It's counseling, legal or whatever advice, as well as we are doing summer camps with these. Well, when the program was started, it was all children, but now most of them are grown-up adults with families, and they live their lives, but they need. Roughly, in a nutshell, this is the work of Blythswood in Romania, and then a number of partner organizations we are working with.
It's an incredibly broad remit, an incredibly broad spectrum of work that you're involved in, from very young to elderly, and it seems like everything in between.
Yes. I mean, we tried to narrow down somewhat the focus, because 10 years ago it was even broader. But so the vision for Blythswood is being involved with, in our logo you see education, community, and gospel. So whatever it falls under these titles, community, education, or education, community, gospel, can qualify for being a Blythswood project. And that our motto is transforming lives through Christian care for body and soul. So that, I think, it's also self-explanatory.
So it's a very holistic view to care for people.
Yes.
I know your organization also has a heart for global mission, in particular with the project called I Have a Brick in Kenya. Can you tell us a little bit about this project? How did it come about, and what are you seeing as the impact of the work?
Yes, I Have a Brick in Kenya it's been going on. It's been more than 10 years, and it's a bit replicating what happened with us Eastern Europeans, Christian groups in the 90s, and even now, missionaries and volunteer groups are coming from all over the world to help Romanians, Hungarians in this area. And in 2011, I was invited by my friend of mine to go with a volunteer group and start to build a school in Kenya. And I thought it was very exciting, the idea that now I'm not going to be at the receiving end, but at the giving end of the story, and see how that works. And so we went with a group of 15 or 17, mainly students, to Kenya, and we started. Well, the school was already started by a local group, but we came alongside them and formed a partnership and helped them build a school for their children, because they had this vision that breaking, the poverty, the only opportunity for them, or the only way, is educating their children. So we came alongside, and then this turned out into a Blythswood project now. We've been going and helping for over 10 years, and we came a long way, so that the school is half built now. We managed to build like 7 classrooms so far, and offices, and with it looks like this year with some more consistent funding from the Hungarian government through the Hungary Helps program. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. We are going to build 4 more classrooms and housing for staff. in
Fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yes, and we've managed to organize vision trips and volunteer trips for over probably 60, 70 people over the years who went and volunteered in Kenya, and just help the locals and spread the gospel through practical work mainly, but not exclusively.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting, the way you have, as you said, in many ways, parts of Romania were recipients of care from others, and how that has, in a way, inspired you to turn that round and be those who reach out and care for others in global mission. I think is really, really exciting. This last 2 years of global pandemic has pressed many changes onto all of us. It's been said that necessity is the mother of invention. And so how have you or others in your ministry had to adapt practices in order to continue your work of service? Is there any new things that have developed that have maybe been a blessing for your ministry?
I think we can all say that we are suffering of restrictions, and it's not easy, especially here in the Daniel Center, where a large part of our work is counseling, mentoring, group meetings, and then this suffered big time. Personal contact had to be reduced, or also with the buses visiting families, many of them being elderly. The time is very limited. But as most of us, we've shifted also to the online world, what we haven't done before. So like my personal experience is that I started attending groups in the UK, presenting the Blythswood work to churches and different support groups on a regular basis. Whereas prior to the pandemic, this only happened once a year when somebody goes for a visit. But now this happens quite regularly and helps communication with lots of people whom I've never met before. And I know that one of our partners, Bonus Pastor, they also started broadcasting quite a number of their events, like the Sunday service in the rehab center in Ózd. You only see the minister, but turns out that thousands are following them on the Sundays. So which, prior to the pandemic was for a group of 15, who were in therapy at Ózd. Now that is reaching to so many more. Yes, there are some good things developing, definitely.
As I mentioned earlier, this series of conversations is a reflection on the words of Jesus in Matthew 28:18-20, often referred to as the Great Commission. Is there anything that resonates with you in particular from these words of Jesus? Or is there another verse or passage of scripture that refines and shapes your thinking around our need to be involved in mission?
Yes, I think all we do is set, and maybe not so much in my work, not so much like making disciples through, preaching the word of God, but it's all I do, and all we do is constant awareness of the fact that the center of all this is the Lord himself. And whatever we do is only possible because the Lord allows us to do that, and it's a privilege to be part of his greater work. And spreading the gospel can be done by words, but also by showing compassion, showing mercy, leading by example, being an authentic person, and just the way we live our lives and the way we treat, let's say in the Daniel Center, our beneficiaries in fairness, and our partners or our staff is all focused on this great commandment. That's what I can say.
Yeah, I think that there's a much greater awareness now, just as you said, that sharing the gospel is more than just words, that it's a much greater context. It's everything about what we might call incarnational living, and how we live and how we exhibit Christ in how we interact with people and our attitudes and everything that we do. What does mission involvement at its best look like? What advice can you give to individuals or congregations to grow their involvement in mission. Some may listen to what you've been saying this morning and saying, this is fantastic and we're fully in support of everything you're doing, but I could never do that, or I could never be involved. What advice could you give to individuals or congregations about involvement in mission and what it might look like at its best?
I think we just have to realize and be focused on the fact that the world out there is very big. And we tend to, at least in our church, we tend to only focus on our small world that is often quite closed. And I think people need to hear about other things going on, like in our church, where we both attend every second or once a month. We had like a mission Sunday when somebody came up and gave a report on a different country, or how Christians may be persecuted in some parts of the world, or just to broaden our vision and our focus. I know of churches that have in Cluj Protestant church that has a specific foreign missions budget, so it's part of the church leadership's focus. With to me, mind-blowing, they have over 100,000 euros per annum designated to foreign missions, and I guess this should be done in all Christian churches in Cluj. The leadership, because prayer, definitely specific prayer needs, and we should pray during the Sunday service for a specific need of Christians and ministry, mission work around the world. That can be done by anybody. You don't need a special calling for watching out for Christian brothers in Pakistan or whatever. And becoming involved financially with small amounts, or whatever, smaller or bigger amounts, whatever God entrusted you to manage, specifically for foreign missions, I think should be part of our church life.
I think you've said two really interesting things there for me. I think the nature of the global pandemic is that our worlds have contracted a lot, and we've inclined to become very inward looking and a little bit closed off. And I think that's one of these reasons why these conversations are so exciting to me, because it's about making sure that we lift our head and still look around and see that the needs and the broader part of global mission is still there and still very much needs our work. And then I think the second thing you said there was really interesting was, God doesn't ask us to do more than he has gifted us with or given us. And we don't need to do big, grand gestures. Not all of us will travel to Kenya. But some of us can simply do with what God has placed in front of us and what he has blessed us with financially, or in sense of gifts or passions or interests. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, many people ask, me when we talk about Kenya, like, why do you have to go to Kenya? There is enough needs here. And I think that's fair enough, though maybe the scale of poverty is a different story, but that's fair enough. So why don't you get involved here locally? But often I find that people use these things more like an excuse not to get involved with something. So I always say, okay, you're not interested in Africa or Republic of Moldova. There is enough. I can offer you some place to get involved locally. Just get out there and start doing something.
Just finally, Balazs, can you share an encouragement and perhaps a challenge that you are experiencing? It could be personal or in your ministry, that might help listeners to be praying for you at this time and for your ministry.
Very specifically and very locally. Yes, it's always easier to find challenges, to speak about challenges, but yes, most, like here in the Daniel Center, most of this young man we are working with have I'm not sure now what is the proper English term, that is not offending, but they have mental health issues, which the pandemic made worse. It's a lot of baggage they are carrying with being abandoned, most of them being abandoned, and all sorts of abuse that happened throughout the years in different institutions. And so all this baggage leads to serious problems. So we definitely need need constant prayer and encouragement. Again, related to the Daniel Center, next week we'll have one of the boys moving out on his own, in his own rented flat as a job, is balanced. So we do see these things, and it's very encouraging.
That is encouraging, isn't it? It's the fruit of ministry. Whenever you see some of that really starting to flourish is really exciting. Balzs, thank you so much for being part of this conversation and for speaking with us today. And may God bless you in your ministry and in your service.
Thank you. Thank you.